What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Wait What Are We Talking About podcast, episode 134. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011. You can catch this podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011 every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. You join the chat, join on the conversation if you're a subscriber over there. We'd love to have you in on all the fun, but if you can't catch it live, that is A-OK. Go over to YouTube and podcast services where it's broken out topic by topic and put is one big video in MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. Last but not least, hashtag ad merch store. Get all of your swag over there, t-shirts, cups, backpacks, and more. Rep the brand, support us, and we would love you for it. Going with another solo episode today after last week's insanity with JC. Hope you guys enjoyed that episode. I definitely had a blast recording it. Today, just two topics. Two smaller topics. I don't know, potentially. Just went to a comic convention today, so I wanted to talk about conventions with you guys. Locally, there was a convention that happened over this past weekend as of recording, so today and yesterday. Lady and I were lucky enough to go today. We had some free time, and we had some fun with it. This convention's been going for, oh boy, maybe 5 years, and they've had like multiple throughout the year. It's not like a annual thing, but they kind of spread it out. And we were able to go. We had some fun with it. It's been interesting to see the growth and progression of this con from year to year, from session to session, whatever you want to call it. And this year's was all right. It wasn't too bad. Had a good selection of vendors there and artists and special guests, celebrities you could see. But it also felt, I don't know if it was just their selection of what people were selling and stuff like that. It was kind of like, compared to other ones, it felt smaller in a way. And I think something that could have also helped that thinking was the spacing of everything, which I appreciated as, you know, a customer, a consumer, being able to walk, for the most part, freely without obstruction was very, very nice. There have been years in the past where the layout with their two rooms, one room is very compact and like it's very narrow to walk in between booths, and then the other one was a little bit more open, and I felt like this convention they did a better job of spreading things out in both rooms. Like, there were times, of course, because there's a lot of people, there were traffic jams, I guess you could say, but I thought for the most part they did great with spacing things out, so it allowed for a little bit better flow of traffic. But overall, like I said, convention was fun. We took a few laps around. Personally, something I always do at conventions, regardless of the size, you do one lap through and you just kind of take it all in. You'll look at stuff and like go, ooh, wow, look at all this craziness and all the people. And then from there, depending on your subsequent laps, how many you're taking, you really slow it down and kind of absorb each individual booth, table, artist, whatever it is. And today we did just that. Really depends, like I said, on the convention, how many of those laps you do take. So we took, I think, maybe 2, maybe 3 tops today, just because not a lot caught our eye personally. But I did get some stuff today that I want to show you, just kind of show off. I got Demon Slayer Pop. I got Mr. Inosuke here, looking all dope with his pig head from Demon Slayer. So he was really cool. And then I got these cool, like, wooden, I guess, carvings, pretty much. But they're like cut out and painted. So I got this cute one of Luna Lovegood. Oh, her hair's freaking out. There we go, from Harry Potter. Thought that looked adorable. And then the one that really caught my eye, just because I thought it looked dope as hell, was Morbius from Marvel. Or Jared Leto. No, Morbius. Just thought it looked really cool. So I picked those up. And the woman who was selling them has a lot of other cool designs. I think there was a lizard, a Sandman that looked really dope, and Electro from Spider-Man. There's different Harry Potter ones and different Marvel hero ones, and some other variety. I think she had some wrestler ones, which was cool. But yeah, it was fun to look through, like I said, once again, the different booths, see what people were selling. And yeah, that's always something. The art is phenomenal. Just seeing the massive talent in that room. And obviously their portfolios hung up or in the books in front and the different pieces that they have. So yeah, the local convention was solid. Luckily, I've been able to go to quite a few other conventions. There's another smaller one not too far from where we are, maybe about 45 minutes, which I would say was probably the first local one that we really had. And that's another good one, but I'd say that one's focused more on the comic book aspect of these conventions, which obviously Comic-Con, you would think comic books, and I know that's kind of taken a very, over the years since Comic-Con was first introduced, like it's definitely changed its forms and what they present there. Like obviously there's, the stuffed animals, there's the art, there's games, it's just this wide variety of topics and subject matter, and it's pretty much just like nerd culture just splattered in there. But that smaller one definitely, I would say, focuses on the comic book aspect. I've seen a lot of highly graded comics for sale, individual issues and graphic novels, and things more focused and tailored to that niche audience, I guess you could say. And that's always a fun one to walk through. Once again, you walk away, or at least I've walked away with less stuff, but you're able to find, still collector's items here and there for yourself to hang up and, I guess, show off. So those are the two smaller ones I've gone to. And then, like I said, I've been lucky enough to go to some other ones. I've been able to, one year, kind of on a whim, I joined some friends to Anime Boston, and that one was surprisingly a huge blast. And it could have been, hanging out with the friends, stuff like that. That definitely could have added something to it, which it did. But that one took me by surprise of how much I actually enjoyed it and the experience I had. At the time, I hadn't watched a lot of anime personally. I'd, grown up with Dragon Ball Z and obviously Pokemon and some Yu-Gi-Oh! Here and there, but I hadn't dove deep into like Attack on Titan, which was huge at the time. I don't think My Hero had fully come out yet, so I think this was just before that. But then, I don't know, there's endless amount of animes, but I didn't know anything. So going to that, I was going in blind, essentially, and I had a blast. It just seemed like, obviously, everybody was having a great time, so the energy was positive all around. People obviously freaking out about the shows that they enjoyed, the panels that were available. I think I popped into a Sailor Moon panel for fun, and because Lady was a fan of it, and she was unable to go to the convention at the time, so I picked up something for her there. So that was surprisingly fun, just to pop in there and see what that was about. I think we also went to, as a group, some kind of, it was like a panel for, not directing, but maybe it was storytelling, or storyboarding rather, the animes and stuff like that. We checked that out. And yeah, just Boston's a fun city to explore. We didn't really explore too far from the convention center, but the area around it's very, very nice. A lot of cool restaurants. I think there was a fun mall. And then there was also like a really unique Harry Potter store that was nearby, along with another like pop culture store. So yeah, Anime Boston's one that has taken me by surprise. I think the next one is coming up as of recording, maybe within a week or two. And I'm kind of sad that I don't get to go. Maybe Impulse Trip. No, I'm just kidding. Definitely want to go back to that convention in the future. Obviously, the global pandemic condition, whatever you want to call it, caused some speed bumps for conventions in general. And that's maybe why going today to the local one also was so special. It's just like, man, I really miss this atmosphere and going to these things, exploring, discovering new pieces of art or memorabilia or whatever it is. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that next experience with Anime Boston and going and enjoying that once again. And then as for the West Coast, speaking of impulse ones, when I was living out in California, another convention that I had the opportunity to go to was Wondercon. Now, if you don't know what Wondercon is, it's essentially like San Diego Comic-Con light. Now, I've never been able to go to the big two. I've never been able to go to San Diego Comic-Con or New York City Comic-Con. But WonderCon is essentially, from what I can tell, San Diego, but a little bit more accessible, I guess, and easier to get into. That one was insane. Going to that convention, exploring the numerous amount of rooms that they had, and just the size and the magnitude of that convention, a little awe-inspiring, a little like, whoa, there is a lot to take in here. And I mentioned the laps, like going through taking everything in, and then from there, really absorbing it. Like, I can't tell you how many times I walked around those rooms trying to see everything and anything that they had to fucking what the hell had to experience. I guess that's what I'm looking for. Sorry, guys. And yeah, it was tough. It was tough to see everything, and it was a little overwhelming, but very cool to experience that. I remember going to a couple of panels just for the hell of it. I believe I went to the DC Legends of Tomorrow. Like, Cast had a panel for the newest season coming out with, I believe, Jonah Hex was showing up. That's what their reveal was at their trailer. So that was fun. I think I just went just to kind of throw it in there, like, as an experience. That was fun. I was able to meet Unruly. Shout out to him at WonderCon years ago with his family. That was really cool. Totally did not expect to do that. Also met the Black Power Ranger there from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. That was cool. So yeah, WonderCon was a blast. I like I said, that was a big impulse one. I think at the time when I was living there, I kind of went out to explore, find some different comic shops in the area, and luckily one of the shops had it, like a poster for it, and I was like, went home, checked it out. I was like, yeah, I want to do that, and sure enough, impulse buy, got a weekend pass, and here we are. So WonderCon was great, and then what else was there? Twitchcon. Twitchcon was a huge one. So TwitchCon has always been, or at least early on in the streaming career, had been something that I wanted to give a shot, because I figured, like everybody says, network. And I was like, God, I hate networking. But, that's the place to do it, is go talk to people who also stream and figure out that shit. But TwitchCon was interesting from a creator's perspective. Obviously, they still had, like, the art and the memorabilia and the nerd culture stuff for, I would say, a general audience. But, like, as you would go to a convention, that's what you're typically aiming to do. But then something unique with TwitchCon that they had was, it was a lot of booths, tables, whatever you want to call it, that were focused on, obviously, content creation. So there were things for notifications, how to create those. There were things for cameras, for lighting, for pretty much anything that, as a Twitch streamer, YouTube streamer, like any form of content, visual or audio, like, that you would want. And the cool thing was, those booths, obviously, they're there to sell their products, so they want to talk to you about their product, and they want to sell their stuff, or at least, like, answer any questions you have. And I thought that was... it was a fun experience. It didn't feel like, obviously, once again, they're trying to sell you the product, but it didn't feel insincere like other sales pitches and stuff like that. It felt like this is a legit conversation, and we're just talking about, what does your product do? Oh, that's really cool. How could I use that for my thing? Blah, blah, blah. It was nice. Like I said, it didn't feel wow, I just said the insincere. Didn't feel insincere, and it didn't feel like they were just stringing me along. Maybe they were, but at least from my experience, it felt positive overall. Another reason TwitchCon was so positive, once again, hanging out with people. Lady was able to go to this one, so that was a lot of fun hanging out with her. That's where we met Uberbrent for the first time overall, and he's fantastic. Snowbike Mike, we got to hang out with him and his crew. Shout out to him. As he was getting back into streaming himself. Met Miss Snow White there for the first time, who I had watched early on, at least in my experience with Twitch, and learning from her, and kind of like being like, okay, that's a community I want to create. So being able to meet her was fantastic. We saw some other people. I know Maximilian Dude and Yo Video Games were there. We were able to meet Steve, Infinite SGE, just randomly walking around, which is fun. And then I would say the biggest what the fuck moment is I got to compete in Fortnite at that convention. What? They had a Fortnite invitational where it was, I believe it was 50 content creators specifically for Fortnite, and then it was 50 randos. And you signed up for it, and if you got picked, you got an email for it, and you would essentially report in, and you would do, I think it consisted of 3 games. 2 solos, and then it was teams, duos. It was you and the professional, the Fortnite content creator, and you would go from there. And if you did well, you won some money. So that was surprising. And that was a whole nother experience, seeing what obviously the competitive side of gaming is like, and whether it's the Fortnite side or just anything, like how that whole thing is presented, what it's like for the competitors, what kind of, I guess, situation they go through, the setup and whatnot. And it was really, really cool to sit down and experience that. Didn't do super well at the game at the time. Very vanilla and green with my experience at that time. Not that I'm super MLG now, but I definitely think I would do better. But nonetheless, it was really, really cool to once again just be a part of that experience, that presentation to the audience of like, oh, this is a gaming event. So that was neat. I would say the only negative for TwitchCon was their organization. They haven't really, as far as I know, they jump around their locations of where they hold it. Most of the time it's LA. Obviously they've branched out to European audiences and done some over there. But this year, I believe it was San Jose that they were in. And the building was fine. Their organization between hotels was fine and transportation. When it came to meet and greets, I felt that was the downside. There was there was not a great organizational setup for that. You had your rows, but you could be in a line that some security officer told you to be in, and then it wasn't a line, even though you stood there for a half hour, and they're like, what the fuck are you doing here? So we had a bad experience with that. But other than that, it was a fantastic time. Would I like to go back to TwitchCon? I think so. I think so to, see if there's a potential of meeting other streamers. I think Chilled Chaos and his group has gone from time to time. So now knowing them, seeing if they're there, say, hey, meet them. Running into Yo Video Games again, I don't know if they would ever go back. Not that they had a bad experience, but just with Max and the family now. I don't know if Max is thinking about going to conventions again, or at least at the time being. But yeah, seeing them again, they were always really nice to us, at least, Kenny and Steve, those who we have met. But yeah, it was just fun. It was just a fun time. And then another one that was along the same lines, but even a more kind of niche audience, was RTX, Rooster Teeth Experience. And when we went, Lady and I, that was another one that was very, I would say, community focused. At the time, I was big into Kind of Funny, so going and as you can tell by some of these posters, going at the time and like meeting up with them and meeting more community members, interacting with them, hanging out with, once again, Snowbike Mike and Gifted Dim and Recosplay and Suburbanite Slob and all these different members of the community, hanging out with them for a majority of the time. That was a lot of fun. But then we also made sure to really do stuff that we wanted to. And I think, once again, shout out to Snowbike Mike, at the end of all this, he was like, you guys really were exploring this for yourself. I think you guys did the most on your own, not in a bad way, but just like you knew what you wanted to do and you hit those check marks. So for example, we were really into this show with John Reisinger, Murder Room. So we went to a panel for that and experienced what they were talking about and the experience of making the show and how they do things and what they had plans for down the road. We made sure we went to that panel. Went to a panel about the women of RTX, where it featured like Lindsay and Elise from Funhouse, Joey Noel from Kind of Funny, and other content creators from different branches and their experience in the content creation world. I had the opportunity, luckily, to talk to one of the Rooster Teeth editors about his experience of making some live action content and like kind of questioning and picking his brain of how I could do things better on my end and like my workflow and what theirs is. And that was like, it felt really rewarding, even though it was a very quick conversation. The fact that they took the time out of their day to kind of set these appointments aside to talk to individuals who wanted to pursue editing or graphic design or web design or marketing or whatever. They would have team members in the Rooster Teeth, you know, the business side of things, take time out of their day to talk to these people. And it just, that felt different, and it felt really good, really like a really good experience. What else did we have the opportunity to do at RTX? We went to the Kind of Funny panel, so interacting with those guys again was a blast. We had the opportunity to meet some of the Valley folk, Steve Zaragoza, and what's the other guy's name? I'm blanking on it, but they were just wandering around, saw them, that was cool. And then other members of RT, like, I know we didn't get a picture of them. We saw like Jeremy Dooley walking around. We saw Lindsey Jones, Alfredo Diaz, John Reisinger once again. I think Alana Pierce was out there. Andy Cortez was hosting something about the game that Rooster Teeth made that sadly didn't do so good after the month after release. I don't know. That was a fun one. We've kind of fallen out of Rooster Teeth content, at least like regularly watching it. So I don't know how rewarding it would be now to go back. It was definitely a fun experience. I think I would go back because of the positive memories. I just don't know if I would get as much out of it from creator-wise. And it's nothing that anybody did per se. It was just, what am I watching at the moment, I guess. And then I think the only other convention I've gone to would be San Diego Comic-Con. Now, you're like, Bret, wait a minute. Earlier you said you hadn't gone to either of the big two. Correct. I've only been outside of San Diego Comic-Con. So that was, what was the reason for that one? Oh, that was a Kind of Funny meet and greet. So they were at San Diego for some reason, for the convention, doing some panel. And they decided that they were going to do a meet and greet at some bar afterwards. And I was like, okay, I'm living here. Why not? I'll drive down. I'll hang out, because I had heard there's a lot of experiences outside of the convention for people to do, and there's a lot to do, a lot of activities, so it's still worth it, even if you can't get in. Excuse me. So I decided to do that. So even seeing the grand scale of that convention from the outside, that was another one that was kind of like, oh shit, this is huge. I remember with that one, there was like different experiences you could walk up to. I remember there was like a South Park area you could walk through and take pictures with like cardboard cutouts. And there was, I believe, a Suicide Squad at the time was coming out. There was a Suicide Squad like VR experience you could go do. What else was there? There were some artists and in a smaller convention center that you could just walk into. Near there, along with a video game area. I think one of the Pokemon games was advertised. Yeah, it was different. It was different because obviously not in the convention itself, but that was fun. I don't know if I'll ever... San Diego would be like the tip of the top to go to. I don't know what the odds are for that. It seems like tickets, you got to be like on the ball with like when they drop immediately. You got to be in a waiting room, blah, 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 this, that, the other thing. I think New York City Comic-Con is a little bit more accessible, it seems, as I've had some friends that have gone to that in the past. But we'll see. We'll see. Like I said, Twitchcon will be fun to go back to. I think WonderCon was great. I think that one I would definitely go back to. That's just a bit of a planning. And then I think top, at least right now, that I definitely want to go back to is Anime Boston. And once again, that was just like, it was such a big surprise. It was so much fun with friends. And now diving into more shows like My Hero, like Demon Slayer, watching Death Note. I know a lot of people are like, holy shit, you're late to the ball on that. I think it would be a little bit more interesting now that I know a little bit more of the subject matter. So it'd be a good time. But yeah, conventions are fun. I know some people aren't all about crowds, If that's not your thing, I get it. You definitely gotta be ready for that. I don't feel like it's always you're crawling over people, but there are at points where it gets congested, where there's a traffic jam, whatever. You just kind of maneuver your way through it, and it'll work out. But other than that, it's really cool. Really cool. Talk to some people who obviously have common interests with you. See all the cool art. See all the cool memorabilia you didn't even think there was. See the random memes that people are producing. Like we saw a surprise Pikachu meme pin today. That was pretty funny. Yeah, just a good time. Good time overall. Conventions. Yeah. Moving over to topic 2, I want to talk to you guys about Days Gone. And you're like, Bret, this game's like 3 years old. Where have you been? Working through the backlog. That's what I'm doing. And Days Gone's been a lot of fun so far. I don't know how long this topic will go because I don't want to talk spoilers about the game. I'm going to try my best not to, but if I do, I apologize. Days Gone's been a lot of fun. I've been playing it for, I'd say, the past couple weeks. I want to say I'm 25 to 30 hours in, so I'm really taking my time and exploring it. But essentially what Days Gone is it's an open world zombie survival narrative game. And what has happened is your character Deacon and his friend Boozer are essentially, trying to survive in the shits, as they call it. And they have decided that they want to go north to hopefully try and escape the zombie infestation that has happened in their state and city of Portland. And you kind of run into an obstacle early on where Boozer gets hurt. And he's hurt pretty bad. And you as Deacon have to take care of him. So you go out on runs and missions to get resources for him, help out other survivor camps in the area to build trust with them, to earn credits, to get resources for your trip, to try and help Boozer once again, and also, go north and try and live life in a different area. So the thing that makes, I think, this zombie game a little bit more interesting than your typical zombie game is the zombies themselves in this title. Now, throughout the game, they're not called zombies. They're called freakers, which I get it. Lol, that's a stupid name. But the freakers, are kind of terrifying at times. There's different types. There's a swarmer. There's newts, which are like kids, which is kind of fucked up. There's a screamer, which lures a bunch of them towards the area that they're in. As you progress later in the game, there are brawlers, which are big, giant, roided out freakers. There's criers, which are infected crows that will just dive bomb on you, which is kind of messed up. So you have the different types, but then normally, you'll see a straggler's freaker walking around doing its thing. It notices you. It's going to come attack. At night, they come out. They don't like the sun in general, but they'll be out there. At night is definitely the time where they'll be out there exploring and, fucking shit up. And the most terrifying thing about these bastards is some of them travel in hordes, which is essentially maybe 50, 100, too many of these guys traveling in a pack together. And the crazy thing is sometimes you can just stumble upon these guys without even knowing. So that's been I would say the biggest challenge, but also surprisingly the most fun in this game is trying to deal with these hordes. Just like any other open world game, there's, a lot of checkpoints or pins of different missions and stuff like that. And in each area it says, okay, there's so many of these marauder camps, there's so many of these ambush sites, there's the hordes that you got to deal with. And it's, once again, it's essentially a big checklist. Do you have to do it all? No. But me, if it's fun, I enjoy doing it, I'll do it. So the hordes has been a fun one to kind of tackle and strategize on how you're going to do. Now, the reason these hordes are so difficult along with their numbers, is they're very aggressive. So you trip one off, the whole crowd is going to be coming for you, and they're sprinting at you. It's not these old slow crawling walking zombies. No, these ones are aggressive, and they're going to chase you down. And if you don't have a good plan, you're going to get swarmed fast. So the whole strategy is like you got to kite them around, go in circles, and turn around, shoot when you can, maybe throw a Molotov cocktail in there, whatever it is. The worst, and I've only had this happen to me once, is when you're fighting off one horde and you're running around, you turn around, you shoot your gun, and then you run into a second one. Then you got all of that after you. Oh my God. Like I said, it's fun, at least for me, trial and error, just to like, I see like, oh my God, I'm making progress in it. And even in the loss, it's like, okay, I want to do it again. And that's good. You don't want the frustration aspect where things seem too hard, too difficult, and it just pushes you away. So I think that is a fun aspect of the gameplay that, if you're ready for it, obviously nighttime you go out, they're out and about. You can even find them during the day, but they're like hidden away. So like they're hiding in caves, kind of hibernating, I guess you could say, or at least congregating in an area. So if you feel you're prepared, you can get the jump on them, and they're a little easier to fend off in that situation. So the hordes are fun. I mentioned the checklist. There's a lot of things to do in this game, along with obviously the story narrative that they're trying to tell. There's the different ambush camps and marauders. So throughout the game, you're going to kind of run into these different factions of people who are trying to survive. Through your story, you're going to run into different survivor camps as well that you're trying to assist. And for the most part, those people are sane. Some camps definitely have a different mindset and attitude of how they're going to fix things and rebuild stuff. And some's good, some's not so good. Like one of them is like a work camp. So that's not great. But yeah, so these other ones that you take care of are like the crazy people. Some people who went a little too far off their rocker per se. And you kind of deal with those groups. And something I've noticed is the world's very, I don't think organic's the right term, but it's like a living world, which I appreciate. So if you take care of these camps, obviously those people won't be around anymore. But if you're traveling throughout one of the areas on the map and you haven't taken care of the marauders, they'll set up traps to try and take you out, to get resources from you. So you'll be traveling on your motorcycle, which I'll get to in a moment, and you won't notice for a second, but then you're like, wait a minute, is that a wire in between those two cars? And you'll get clotheslined off your bike, and they're going to run in and be like, ah, and try and attack you. And so it's kind of cool to see, like I said, these living elements of the world and how it can affect, like what you did affects the world. So taking care of those ambush camps, whether it's the marauders or the rippers, which is like an evil cult that's super crazy, seeing you deal with those also makes it fun. Now, I mentioned the motorcycle. The motorcycle is probably your most important thing in this game, and I think it was kind of a hiccup for people early on when this game was first released of how important this motorcycle was, because you will live and die by this motorcycle. Not that you have to use it for every fight, every interaction, whatever it is. However, you need to make sure you are maintaining this thing. Fill it up with gas. You constantly run out with all the traveling you're doing. You need to make sure you have scrap so you can repair it if you bash into things, whether it's zombies, whether it's buildings, whether it's people, whether it's taking off jumps. It will take a little bit of damage. You need to repair your bike. There's stuff like that. Also, the bike is the only place, except for beds and resting areas, that you can save. So, if you just decide, I'm going to leave my bike here and I'm going to go run around for a while, you're not going to be able to save until you return to that bike or you find a bed, in some area where it's safe. So just a heads up there. You will live and breathe by the bike. So yeah, I don't think it's that much of a hiccup. It's just something obviously you need to be aware of. I do recall, like I said, a lot of people bitching about the bike when it did first come out. I haven't personally found too much of like a problem with it, if you want to call it that. I think it's fine. I think it's a good means of transportation. I think it's fun also to kind of skirt around in the bike. So yeah. What else is there? I would say the story overall is very intriguing. Obviously, I talked about the element of helping your friend Boozer obviously recover from his injury, and then you riding up north to start your new life. There's also a storyline in here where Deacon is trying to kind of... You learn more about his backstory and how something happened at the beginning of this infection, this outbreak, I guess you could say, with him and his wife. And you're trying to come to terms with her fate. And throughout the story, you learn different things about, like, once again, their backstory. You kind of see their journey together from the start of their relationship to when they got married. And you kind of feel for Deacon and, grow that relationship with him, that connection. So that's cool to see and explore. And then they have a lot of interesting side characters. I've mentioned the different camps. In the game, you're going to run into 4 different camps. And the cast and characters in each of the individual camps, they have some ones that definitely stand out as more interesting. There was a character that runs the second camp, the work camp, and seeing her like attitude towards people, like, she's a badass bitch. She handles her business. I don't like her mentality of like how she's running her place, but like she takes no shit. But there's also some support. There's one mission line that I don't want to go too much into detail with because of where it goes. But essentially where it starts is you rescue this girl who's been surviving out in the shits on her own somehow for years. At the point you pick up the game, it's been 2 years since the first like crazy outbreak where everything really hit the fan. And somehow she's been surviving on her own, and you try and assist her in moving forward with her life. And this isn't something that like happens immediately, but it slowly happens over your playing and progression of the game. But seeing where her journey started to where personally I've left her off, I haven't finished the game yet, is like, oh wow. Like it's crazy to think of like how attached or like how intrigued you can get into someone's story, or how powerful that can be just with a glimpse of like, here's a little insight, then you take a break, and then you like come back and you like, it's those little check-ins here and there. Like this character, at least in Deacon's story, isn't the most important, but seeing them keep popping up and seeing where they're at, for me as a player, has been really fun and like intriguing. I want to see more of what is happening with them. So I'd say that is fun. That's definitely a positive in this game. Positive in this game category. I don't know. However you say it. That's a pro. Yeah, like I said, I haven't finished it yet. I'm towards the end. I know I've been joking with the lady for a while. Oh, I'm almost done. That's another thing I would say this game does. It doesn't like drag on, but it does have moments of escalation where it's like, oh shit, am I at the end? Like, is this the third act like a movie? And then something else happens. Like, oh, okay, I guess we're still going. So I looked at the walkthrough. I didn't see what happened, but I am towards the back nine. The back nine's only a half. I'm on the downslope. I'm on the downslope of this game. Should be wrapping it up in the next day or two, depending on if I really focus and don't get distracted by all the side shit. We'll see. Yeah, I'll be talking about this in 2 weeks. I finally finished it. But yeah, it's been a blast. I definitely, from a gameplay side, and maybe it's because it's part of my backlog, maybe they updated stuff, maybe they fixed bugs, whatever. From a gameplay perspective, I think it's really great. I don't know why it scored kind of in the mid-range in reviews. I will say some of the commentary this game makes is a little like icky because of, and I think it makes sense why people talk this way, but it's more of like, okay, this big infestation happens, the world's gone to shit, right? Everybody's, dealing with this, and it's showing how people deal with things differently. So obviously we have the one side where it's very crazy, where you got the Rippers, who are this weird cult that kind of like adore the Freakers and want to be part of them, blah blah blah. And then you got your crazy Marauders who will just rape and pillage and do whatever they want. But then you got other people who you run into who are very conservative, I guess you could say. And they don't treat people badly, but they're very much like, okay, for example, one of the camps you help on early, he has a radio program, and you'll hear it from time to time, unless you skip it. You can skip it. I've listened to it. Where he's very blamey of everybody. And like, oh, the government is trying to do this, and this conspiracy, and man, we got to make America good, and this and that. Is like, all right. So that's a little on the nose, I guess, but I don't know. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't disgust me or make me want to turn it off. It's just like, all right, I get it. That's how certain people would react to a situation like this. And, it makes sense. It's the end of the world, the end of times. So people are going to be a little bit more out there, I guess. I don't know. So there's that. Let's see. I'm reading through Wikipedia right now real quick to see what was critically like about this game. Players are doing the exact same thing in the exact same way for hours on end. I get that, but that's most open world games. I feel is very rinse and repeat. I've mentioned the checklists here. Like, you go out, clear a camp, you go report back. You go do a bounty, you go and report back. I don't feel it's that bad. I don't know. Once again, I guess that could be just gameplay. Like, certain gameplay is going to attract other players compared to other stuff. Like, I mean, there's games, open world games, I'm like, ugh, nah, I'm good. And other ones just click. This one clicks. I don't know. I enjoy it. Overall, I think it's a rewarding experience because of the story they're telling. And because of that, maybe the tasks that they're giving me don't feel so monotonous, I guess you could say. They feel intriguing. So that's good. I will say, okay, this is my own personal experience as I'm breezing through this Wikipedia article, and I'm not seeing anything that stands out other than the motorcycle thing. The hordes. I talked about that. There's been a bug with the hordes for some reason where they don't count as completed, which sucks. So I've run into it a few times where I'll fight the horde, I'm kiting them around, I'm taking care of it, blah, 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 clear them out, and it doesn't complete. I don't know if this is just like the AI, if you get too far away from the freakers in the back, they despawn or they get distracted and they'll go a different direction or whatever it is. But it won't count as you cleared the horde unless you clear every single one that is counted in as that group. Very weird. So I've had that happen a couple times, and one was the biggest horde I think I've seen so far in this game. There was... people who've played it might recognize this area, but there was a Nero camp and a bounty for, I think it was Two Dog or something. That was his name. So it's like this train yard, and I went there for the missions, saw the horde, and was like, okay, I want to tackle this. But the amount of motherfuckers that were part of this horde was insane and terrifying. I started on a rooftop, I'm chucking Molotovs in there, and then they like stampede around this train and start climbing my roof, and then you got to run through all these obstacles. And the thing is, they're smart as game designers. They give you a lot of tools that you can use to your advantage to kind of help you with the horde. There's explosive barrels around. There's these obstacles you can cut down things, and it will knock down boards to kind of make a barricade to hold them up a little bit. There's a tunnel that you can run through to really funnel them in. So it was a lot of fun tackling it. Took me about 8 tries to do it, and then when I finally did it, it didn't complete. So that was like, like, it's not the end of the world for me once again, because the gameplay is fun to me, where it's not the end of the world, but I could definitely see that being frustrating for someone who's like, I just put in all this work for this thing, and what the fuck, it doesn't count. Like, totally get that. You know, everybody's got their own thing. On the other side of the coin, I found a horde that was hilarious for me. And I haven't told Peanut Gallery this yet, so I'm wondering if she'll laugh. So there was a horde I ran into. Doing the usual thing. I'm running away on foot. I'm turning around, blah, blah, blah. They catch up to me. One smacks me. Now, usually, they smack you. You get damaged. You might fall on the ground, whatever. He smacks me as I'm reloading my gun. As he smacks me, the power of God compelled him off of my chest and flung him miles away from me. Oh, shit. The rest of the group proceeded to do the same thing. They all ran up, boom, blah, boom, blah, boom, just boop, 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 and all flew off me. Horde clear. Hey! I was like, okay, yeah. So that was weird. But okay. That was an odd bug. So I don't know. Days Gone has been a lot of fun. I'm enjoying going through my backlog. I feel a little bit like, hey, I'm doing a good job. It's been a fun experience. I'm interested and intrigued to do a little bit more research into when it launched. It didn't do so well. But from me, I recommend this game. I think it's a lot of fun, especially if you like the zombie genre. I think it's been a good time. Is it a little corny from here and there in the dialogue? Yes. I know everybody made fun of and memed the stupid line in their wedding, ride me as much as you ride your motorcycle. Yeah, that was dumb. I know, it was dumb and cringy as hell. The way they presented it in order of operations, it made no sense. They say it, and you see it in their wedding first, but then you get a flashback when they're in, like, at their engagement, and they make a joke about it. I think if they did order of operations and showed you in the engagement first, then the wedding, it would have made more, like, been funnier. But the way they did it was like, well, that's weird. But whatever, cringe. I get that. Whatever. It is definitely funny to hear. But highly cringe. I think it's fun. I think it's a good experience. I think it's a good narrative. I don't think they got greenlit for a sequel, which I know Sony Bend has been kind of, or Bend Studio has been kind of like not happy about. But it is what it is. Yeah, another one off the backlog. I'm excited to, dive more into these experiences. If it's on if you haven't played it on PS4, I'm sure you can find it cheap now. If you have a PS5, I think it's included in like the PS4, not masterpieces, but like that catalog of games that you can download for free from the previous generation. I think it's on there for free. Don't quote me on it, but check it out if you have the time. Definitely some fun there. This has been another episode of the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011, and you can catch this podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011 every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. You join the chat if you're a subscriber over there. We'd love to have you in on the conversation. But if you can't catch live, that is A-OK. Go over to YouTube and podcast services where it drops topic by topic and is put in one big, and drops as one big video, an MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. Last but not least, hashtag ad merch store. Get all your swag over there. T-shirts, cups, backpacks, and more. Rep the brand, support us, and we will love you for it. Thank you guys so much for hanging out today, giving this a watch, giving it a listen, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care, guys. Bye.